week I'm back with 3 of my current favorite post-workout ideas. I love training, I love moving my body, and I love to fuel myself after a good workout. I've been loving on all of these high protein recipes, so I thought it was only right to share them with you. I've got this sardine stuffed sweet potato. One of my star meals at the moment is this spicy beef rice bowl. Super simple to put together, especially if you have the rice prepped and cooked and ready to go. I'm gonna be sharing my high protein pesto butter beans on sourdough. We're gonna soft boil a couple of eggs, throw some anchovies on top. This one is so damn good. Be sure to check out my recipe ebooks available over on my website for more cooking inspiration, more ideas. Let's jump straight into the first nourishing high protein post-workout recipe. Let's do it. This is my high protein pesto butter bean on sourdough. We're gonna pair it with some soft boiled eggs and some anchovies to top. The idea to combine butter beans, pesto and cottage cheese just came about by me opening up my fridge and looking at ingredients that I had on hand. And I had a moment, I thought these 3 ingredients would go really well together, and I wasn't wrong. This one is so straightforward, so great if you are short for time, or maybe you're a beginner in the kitchen and you're just wanting to explore kind of like simple recipes just to kind of get you started. I have been loving on butter beans recently. I feel like I'm using them in a lot of my dishes. They're just like my go-to bean. You could use any white bean that you have or that you want to use. Chickpeas would also be great for this recipe too. The next ingredient that we'll need is some cottage cheese. If you're fine with dairy, this is a great source of protein. It's super high in protein, and it's also really, really versatile as well. These butter beans were just brought to life by adding in the cottage cheese. It just gave it a creamy touch. I personally adore cottage cheese. I'm using a shop bought pesto. If you prefer to make your own and you have time to, fantastic. At this moment in time, it's all about basil, right? The queen of herbs. So if you have an abundance of fresh basil and you want to get down to making your own, perfect. Like I mentioned, we're going to top these pesto butter beans with an egg. I love to soft boil my egg. You can hard boil it. However you like an egg, you can throw it on top. And then to finish, we're going to be using some anchovies. Just gives it a little extra kick. I don't know, there's something really special about adding a little anchovy on top. I like to put all of this on top of a thick slice of sourdough, some good quality sourdough. If you don't do gluten and you'd prefer to leave it out, the butter beans with the egg and the anchovy would actually work really, really well. If you want to add some bread in there, then do your thing. Do what I'm doing if you want to. You know, I'm a fan of cooking beans from dried, but I just didn't have time, and we're cutting corners. We're going to make some tasty food that is quick and easy. In this case, I grabbed a carton of butter beans. I generally find that carton beans aren't very well salted. So sharing a trick of what I love to do, I love to just grab my beans, give them a good rinse, of course, and then place them in a saucepan with some fresh water and some salt, just for a couple of minutes to soften up a little bit. So if you did this step, you can go ahead and drain off the water from the butter beans, placing them into a bowl. We're then going to place on our pesto, whether that's shop bought or homemade. Place your pesto on top with some black pepper and just give everything a good mix, making sure all of the beans are coated well in that pesto. Next, you can place in your cottage cheese, and again, just mix everything well. The cottage cheese will just break up and these butter beans will be the creamiest pesto butter beans that you have ever tried. Place your eggs to cook. I like a 6.5 minute soft boiled egg. That's like my thing, depending on what size the egg is though. So cook your eggs in whichever way you enjoy, and then it's time to put everything together. Super simple, no fuss, high protein post-workout meal that I love. So we're going to slice up our sourdough, and if you want, you can add a little bit of butter. You can place on those pesto, cottage cheese, butter beans, delicious. Top it with that jammy soft boiled egg or your hard boiled egg, whatever way you cooked it. Top it with some anchovy, place on some fresh parsley if you want to, if you have some. Drizzle over a little bit of olive oil, give it some black pepper. Absolutely delicious, divine. This one for sure is going to be one of those that you're going to just make again and again and again, because it's so simple. It takes no time. Trust me, just try it. You will see. You'll see what I'm talking about. The way in which I've been making this spicy beef rice bowl, you can have the rice prepped in advance so it's even easier and quicker to prepare. If you would prefer to swap out the beef and use something else in place, this recipe will still be magical. You could use prawns in place. For a vegan option, tofu and tempeh would work brilliantly. For the rice element of the bowl, I'm going to be using some basmati. Again, swap out the white rice if you would prefer to. You could use brown rice, wild rice. You could even swap it out and use something like quinoa if that works better for you. you. Radish is having a moment right now in my kitchen. I find myself eating it almost every day, simply chopping it up and eating it raw. I'm really enjoying it with cucumber. In my last video, I showed you like a radish salsa, delicious. So to add to the variety of this bowl, we're gonna be adding in these wonderful, colorful plant foods. So radish, I'm also gonna be using some peppery rocket, otherwise known as arugula for anyone who is confused. Rocket is just a staple, greens are just a staple. I just throw them on absolutely everything. From my morning meals to my evening meals, I'm throwing greens on everything. Other foods that we're gonna add to this bowl include avocado. I feel like the avocado just tops it off. It's like the cherry on top. It really does make a difference to the final finish of this bowl. And we're also gonna be using some fresh coriander. Coriander just works so well with all of the flavors that we're gonna be using for the beef, all of the ginger that we're gonna be chopping up. It's just, amazing. We're going to be using this Japanese sesame seed condiment. It's called furikake. I never know if I'm saying it right. Sorry if I'm not. I cannot get enough of this condiment. I have it on hand at all times, along with another one called gomaseo. I love anything sesame seed. I'm just obsessed. And then to top everything, we're going to use some sriracha, completely optional. If you like it, use it. If you don't, leave it out. The beef will come together really easily, so we are going to prep the rice beforehand. You could even prep it like a day beforehand if you want to, just for ease sake, but I prep mine on the day of making the actual bowl. So yeah, just put your rice to cook. I love cooking my rice with a little touch of coconut milk, of course adding in some salt and a little bit of butter. I don't know, coconut milk and butter in basmati rice just works works really well. So yeah, I put my rice to cook. I then chopped up the ingredients that we are going to place on the side of this spicy beef bowl. So I chopped the radish into these disc shapes, and I finally chopped some red onion, just setting it aside. So for the spicy beef itself, we're going to start by chopping up some chilli. It is completely optional how much chili you add in. I always find it hard to write on a recipe how much chili, because chilies vary, people's taste preferences vary. So just know your heat limit, know what you like, and add in an adequate amount of chili to suit your needs. And we can chop up the remaining ingredients that we're going to throw in this spicy beef. So lots of garlic, lots and lots of fresh ginger. For the spicy beef itself, we're going to grab a pan and we're going to heat it on a medium heat. You can place in whatever fat you want. I love using ghee for this, but you could use avocado oil. If you cook with olive oil, you could use that. So we're going to throw in our finely chopped ginger, garlic, and chili, and we're just going to cook everything for a few minutes. So next step is to throw your minced beef, your ground beef in. So we're going to throw on top some garlic powder along with some tamari. Tamari is optional. I did add some salt, but I just think it gives it an extra touch. So simple. You're just going to cook everything down. I kind of like mine to have just a little crispy touch. I love that. But yeah, just cook your beef down till all of those flavors have infused and it's tasting delicious and it's smelling gorgeous in your kitchen. The time to plate this spicy beef rice bowl up. So place in your cooked rice, your spicy beef, along with all of the extras. So some rocket, some chopped radish, top it with some avocado, onions, squeeze over a little bit of lime juice. You can place some furikake or just regular sesame seeds on top if you have that. Drizzle over some olive oil if you want to. I like to place on top a few extra pieces of chili, and I threw on some coriander as well. The last step was to throw some sriracha on top, so that's what I did. You really can't go wrong with this spicy beef rice bowl. I think it's like the most simple, easiest, most effective way to cook up minced beef, especially if you're short for time and you just want something delicious. I love the fact that this bowl can be worked so many ways. If you want to omit the rice and even use something like greens as the base and you just prefer greens and beef, that would work. And as I mentioned earlier, if you want to swap the beef out for your desired type of protein, I think tofu would actually work really well for this. Simple, delicious, satiating food that you can cook from home. This is what it's all about.
Sardine stuffed sweet potato. I know not everyone loves sardines, but trust me when I show you this really simple, delicious recipe just to transform them, you're gonna love them. One of my favorite convenient, high quality sources of protein are tinned sardines, preferably in olive oil, obviously, for obvious reasons.
So we're gonna need some sweet potatoes. I love every type of sweet potato. You can just use regular sweet potatoes. If you can get hold of white or purple, Oh my goodness, I love a white or purple sweet potato too. The smashed sardines come together in minutes, so we're gonna need a few ingredients. I'm using some mayonnaise. This is like an avocado mayonnaise, which I really love. If you don't have mayonnaise or you're just not a fan, you could definitely use some Greek yogurt, would work really well. So we're gonna be needing some mustard. I just always have Dijon mustard, so that's what I'm using. And we're gonna throw some capers in there. We're gonna be using some parsley, lots of fresh parsley, and some spring onion. I just wanted to like ramp up the nutrition in this, so I'm gonna be adding in some black beans. So I thought I would add the black beans into the sardines, and it worked a dream. So yeah, if you're a fan of black beans, add them in. If you wanna leave them out, no worries. Like I said, tin sardines are a kitchen staple. Like I mentioned, if possible, I just prefer to buy mine in olive oil. So moving on to preparing our sardine stuffed sweet potato, I would advise that you just batch cook some sweet potatoes at the beginning of a week. It just saves a lot of time. This post-workout meal would come together in 5 minutes if you had the sweet potatoes cooked beforehand. But for today, I'm going to walk you through the steps of how I actually prepare my sweet potatoes. Just pierce your sweet potato. I then like to wrap mine in some parchment paper. I then wrap everything in some foil. So parchment paper first, then foil, whack them in the oven on a high heat until they're soft. Obviously, cook time will vary depending on the size of the sweet potato. Next step are our smashed sardines. So I place my sardines into a bowl and I finely chopped up some spring onions. You could use red onion if you don't have spring onions. I then chopped up some fresh parsley and some fresh dill. Dill makes all the difference, so if you can get hold of some, definitely add it in. So place your sardines into a bowl along with the mayonnaise, or if you're using yogurt, place that in along with some Dijon mustard, some salt, some black pepper, a squeeze of lemon juice, and then literally just mash everything up using a fork. Next, throw in the fresh herbs, so the fresh parsley and dill along with the spring onions, and then the capers. You can leave the capers whole if you'd prefer, or you can chop them like I did. Because olive oil is a whole love language for me, I just feel like I have to put it in everything. So yeah, I drizzled in some olive oil and gave it a little bit more black pepper. I can just tell by eye when something needs a little extra something, you know? I then combined everything, and the last step was just to very gently stir in the black beans. So once your potatoes are cooked and they're soft, you can remove them from the oven. Yeah, just stuff your sweet potatoes. So place in those smashed sardines with the black beans. You can top it with whatever you have on hand. So I had some cherry tomatoes. I also used some avocado, and I had a little bit of this beetroot kimchi. I would really advise adding some type of fermented food on top of this. It just works really, really well. I make some variation of this sardine stuffed sweet potato at least once a week. So there we have it, 3 very different post-workout ideas. I can't even tell you which one my favorite is because I feel like they're all unique in their own way. So hopefully there'll be at least one that you could go into your kitchen and try out, give them a go. Let me know how you get on in the comments. Let me know which one you'll be trying out first in the comments also. I'll see you very, very soon in my next video. Bye.
Yeah.